Hello, this is Professor G. It's week 3 in our course, and we are going to jump into copyrights. So, what can be protected by copyright? Pretty much anything that is a creative creation, anything that you create. So, books, art, recordings, magazines, even software. So, a lot of people don't associate copyright with technology, but web pages, the layout, the design, the visual impact of your web page can be protected by copyright. Photographs automatic by the photographer. So, if you hire a photographer, you need to negotiate who actually owns the intellectual property. Usually it's the artist, but they could actually sign a contract saying, hey, when I'm done, all work is yours, including any copyright. That's not common, but still possible. And any type of instruction manual for your business, that's an important thing. So when you are developing later in life, you're out working full time for somebody and you are developing in house materials, you can actually protect those for the benefit of the company, and they would greatly appreciate. Now, what are derivative works and facts? Derivative works, a work that is based on another. So you can copyright it. So, for example, if you read a book in French and you translate that, and while you're translating it, you add your own flavor to it to a degree because you're choosing how to translate it into English, you can actually copyright that as your own work. Now, facts cannot be copywritten. There's no creativity there, right? There's no subjectivity. Facts are facts. Copyrights do not protect ideas alone. They protect work, things that have actually been produced. Now, there's this thing called fair use. When can you use somebody else's intellectual property that they've claimed a copyright in? Education is the biggest one. So fair use is when you're using their material to criticize them or to comment, and there's no financial gain for the person who's making fair use of that intellectual property. There are 4 factors to look at when you're trying to evaluate whether something qualifies for fair use. Is the use commercial or not? So at CMU, we are a nonprofit, and so my use or any professor's use of material is going to lean into the fair use exception. The nature of the work, is it factual or creative? Okay, published or unpublished? Is what you're using a substantial portion? So I can take portions from an essay or from a book and use it in education, but I can't just take the whole book or a substantial part of it. Then the effect of the use upon the potential market. Is my use as a faculty member, a teacher, harming the potential market for the person who owns the copyright? Essentially, what we're looking at here for fair use, am I taking money away from the author or the creator of the work? Here's a test case: Google Books. Google scanned more than 20 million books in their entirety and made these books searchable. Um, Users were only able to see a limited view of the books, okay, not the full book. 4 million of the books were protected by copyright, and Google was sued for copyright violation. Was that a fair? The 4-factor test supports a finding of non-infringement through fair use. They were simply searchable digital copies, highly transformative. Google's profit motive was not enough to weigh out the transformative purpose. Um, Also, I think the most significant, they looked at limited viewing. So they weren't allowing you to access a substantial portion of the book. Now, how long are copyrights? For the life of the individual creator, plus 70 years. So that's a lot. For work made for hire, that means if I hire somebody to do it, it's 95 years from date of publication or 120 years from the date of creation, whichever is shorter. So at least 95 years. Now, this life plus 70 years, think about a music artist. You take any well-known music artist today, if they wrote the music for their entire life, so long as they're breathing, they have a copyright and then their family will have a copyright for an additional 70 years. Ownership of copyright rights. The initial owner, the creator of the work. We also have this thing called works for hire. That's where you hire somebody to do a creative work for you, and you own it because there's a contract saying that I'm hiring you as a contractor to create this work. And under the terms of this contract, whatever copyright you might have as the creative individual transfers over to me, lawyer, in that situation. What other requirements for copyright protection? There's got to be something in a fixed, tangible form. It can't just be an idea. So it can be code, it can be something. It's got to be something, not an idea alone. It's got to be original, and it's got to have some minimal level of creativity. And creativity in this case, let's just say if I'm creating code, I'm choosing how to craft that code, and that's the creativity. Now, how do you get copyright? How do you obtain it? It's automatic. Okay, there's no action needed here. However, you should put, at the bottom of this slide, for example, if I wanted to claim copyright over here in this corner, I might put copyright or a C enclosed in, this copyright, to put the world on notice that I am claiming this as my intellectual property. So copyright disclosure claim is always good. Now, if you are going to sue somebody for copyright infringement, so you've put the copyright symbol and stuff on your whatever it might be, your art, your photography, and somebody steals that and uses it, in order to file a claim in court against them, at that time you would have to register with the US government. It's just a publication registration requirement. Not going to spend a lot of time on that right now. Now, how do you prove copyright infringement? You don't have to have direct proof of copying needed. I don't have to have a video of you actually copying the work. I have to show that the alleged infringer had access to the copyright work, and that the work they are using is substantially similar to the copyright work. We get into these huge arguments with music where they just sample a portion of a song, and a judge says, you know what, this is enough. They're substantially similar, and that's an infringement. So basic types of copyright infringement: direct, it's obvious; vicarious; and then contributory. Direct infringement occurs when a person, without the consent of the copyright holder and outside the scope of fair use, violates at least one of these exclusive rights: copying and selling art, music, video, displaying music, art, or art on a website. So I can't even put somebody else's photos on my website. Now, vicarious infringement is a little bit different. When a person has the right and ability to supervise or control a direct copyright infringement and has a direct financial interest in the infringement. Example: a swap meet organizer who obtain fees from vendors who sell copyright infringing materials. If I know that, I can be sued. I'm the vendor, but I'm selling out space, renting space to people who are violating copyright law, and so I could be sued vicariously. More to come on copyright, but keep this in mind. Any PowerPoint presentation you do in, let's say, a pitch competition or otherwise, you should always put that copyright notice on each slide. Thank you.